This is video 4 of making the most out of your school management software video series. Like we always do, before jumping into this one, let's see what we've learned in the last 3 videos. So in the first video, I took you through a 4-step process to help you select and shortlist your school management software. The first point, we looked at how we can define our trigger areas. Trigger areas are basically the issues, the inconsistencies we are facing in our school, and how important it is to define these trigger areas on a piece of paper so that we can then use them to evaluate our software. In point 2, I took you through defining the processes around these trigger areas. What are processes? These are the ways by which you're managing these areas right now in our school, and because of which you're facing these issues, these inconsistencies. We have a document ready with our trigger areas and the processes around these trigger areas. In point 3, we looked at how we can use this document to evaluate the softwares or the list of softwares that we have shortlisted to come out with one which works the best as per our requirements. In point 4, I took you through the process of defining the roles and permissions. This is a very crucial point because it starts just after you have selected your school management software and just before the implementation starts. In this process, we define the people who are using the areas in the school and at the same time the permissions or to what extent they'll be using these areas. Why this is important is because it ensures that the entire system is more accountable, and the people who are implementing the software will then be able to assign those features to these users, and at the same time to an extent that they only use those particular areas, those particular features, and don't use the unwanted features which they are not supposed to use. Now till this point, we have selected a school management software for our school and we have created a document where we have defined the roles and permissions. Now we are all set to start the implementation. In video 2, I took you through a 5-step process to ensure that your entire implementation journey stays on track, and at the same time all your key stakeholders, your principals, school owners, ERP coordinators are in sync and up to date with the entire progress you are making through this implementation journey. In point 1, I took you through the process of how to ensure that your seed data, which is your student data, and your staff data, which you will be passing on to the vendor to import, is accurately done, is correctly entered into the system. Now why was this step important? Because all the other modules will depend on this step, on this data, and if this data is not accurately entered, then the other modules won't work properly. In point 2, I took you through a process of how we can create a progression chart. A progression chart actually helps you ensure that your entire implementation journey stays on track. In the progression chart, generally what we'll see is columns like date, the area of implementation, people who will be involved in this implementation, but we did it a little differently. We also added a review mechanism to our progression chart. So we also added the reviewers, the date on which the reviews will happen. This will actually help us validate our entire implementation process. And how do we validate the implementation process? We will also create some expected outcomes for each of the areas so that we can validate these outcomes with the outcomes that we are getting after the implementation is done. These outcomes is what we need to create, and this is what we discussed in point 3. In point 4, we spoke about how important it is to make sure that all your trainings since day 1 are recorded. So make sure that your trainings are recorded and there's an internal knowledge base that you create where all your trainings are downloaded and people can use these trainings over and over to refer to them again. Also, as your school keeps growing, it is important to have this knowledge base because people, your educators, your staff members will have to view these trainings over and over as they join in and use the software efficiently. In point 5, we discussed about creating an entire communication channel to ensure that all the updates that are happening are put into this communication channel every 10 to 15 days or every week, so that people who are the key stakeholders like your principal, owners, ERP coordinators, all of them stay up to date and in sync with whatever updates are coming in, whatever activities happening, and whatever progress we are making in the entire implementation journey. So now at this point, we have selected a school management software. We have started the implementation of a school management software. Now it is important that as we do this implementation and as more people start using the software, we make sure that we have a document or a framework which people can refer to so that they can use the software in the right way and put in the data at the right time. This is where we discussed in the 3rd video of how we can create the SOPs or the standard procedure documents. So the way we need to create these documents, or what we discussed in video 3, was setting up these meetings with all these departments and going through the entire workflows so that we can note down each and every point in the entire workflow and then create all these points which can be picked up and put into a document to create the SOP document, to create the standard procedure document. Once this document is ready, we discussed how important it is to circulate this document to the right people so that they can refer to this document and don't miss on any of these things, any of these item points, to ensure that they take these steps at the right time and do it in the right way. Now at the end of video 3, we have a SOP document which is ready for us. This document is also important for you because it can be used by the reviewers or the people who are actually working with staff members and keeping track of the progress that they are making on the school management software's usage, because this will be like a set of guidelines for them as well. Now at the end of video 3, we have selected a school management software, we have started the implementation, we have created the SOP documents, and now we are more or less done. And in case we ensure that we follow these 3 videos properly and implement them, I can assure you that we have done 80% of our work and we are on the right track to make the most out of our school management software. Now your school management software is in place and people from different departments are using it. It is now working like an engine because everybody depends on it to manage their day-to-day work through this software. What we have normally seen is the first year, because it's a new software, the trainings are happening, people are excited to use this software, but eventually year 2, year 3, the usage starts going down and people start going off track. This is why it is also important that we keep a check or build a system to keep this engine running over and over. Today in this video, we'll learn 2 techniques to ensure that we have a system in place to keep this engine running over and over and to ensure that the longevity and the effectiveness of our engine stays intact. So technique 1, make sure that you have a system, a notification system in place wherein your key stakeholders like your principal, your school owners, your ERP coordinators, or whosoever is basically the decision maker or brought this entire system into place keeps getting notified about what is happening on daily basis. Now this doesn't have to be an entire mail or an entire piece of document that he gets. It could be small summarized items like just the numbers that he gets, which informs him that there is movement happening on daily basis. For example, you can have a small consolidated daily digest email that goes to all these key stakeholders, telling them about the fee collections done on that day, the number of students who are absent on that day, the resources that have not been shared on a particular day, homework not been shared with selected classes on a particular day. So what these action points will do, or what these numbers will do, is basically help these people ensure that there is movement happening on a daily basis, and in case there are numbers which are not moving on daily basis, they can actually jump in and act to ensure that the engine keeps running efficiently. Now this could either be a simple email that comes in daily, or it could be a WhatsApp message, or it could be a report that comes on a mobile app. It could be in any form, but it has to be a convenient way for these key stakeholders to see all this information without actually jumping in, logging into the system and then generating reports by using different filters, so that they do it on a daily basis. But having said that, it is also important for these key stakeholders to follow this in a very disciplined way. See, you need to understand this. In case the key stakeholders don't follow this in a disciplined way, there are chances that eventually, even if the usage is going down or these numbers are not moving and the key stakeholders are not taking any action, then the engine will eventually falter, the efficiency will eventually go down. The second technique that we should have in place is having general health check meetings on a regular basis. Now this could be at a frequency of 3 months or 6 months, but we should have it at least twice in a year or 4 times in a year, because this health check meeting will actually bring in all the key stakeholders along with the people from the software implementation side, and they will sit together and discuss what has happened, what progress has happened on the progression plan, and at the same time, in case there are any issues because of which there are certain items that are not moving ahead from the software side or the implementation team side or maybe the school side, they can be discussed. See, what we have seen is generally these kinds of implementations fail eventually because there are certain things which are acting as bottlenecks and there is no one who is informing about these bottlenecks, because these meetings are not happening on a regular basis. And eventually, when it is the time when the stakeholders feel that we have to pull down the entire software because it isn't working, at that point they get to know that there were certain issues which were from our side or from the software vendor side, which could have been fixed if there could have been these meetings in place and we would have communicated better. So if we make sure that we have these two techniques in place, we can actually keep our engine running efficiently over and over and keep getting the desired results throughout. So hope you found this video useful. In case you found it useful, please make sure that you like this video, subscribe us so that you don't miss out on any future videos, and also make sure that in case you have any queries or want to share any feedback, please put it in the comment section so that I can also get myself involved, reply to your queries and also learn myself. Thanks for watching.